Bev Adams. I'm an independent demonstrator with Stampin' Up! This is the card I'd like to show you today. It uses Country Home. This is in the Holiday Catalog on page 43. And it uses the hexagon embossing folder, but you do not need a big shot. The card base is mint macaron, 4 1/4 by 11, scored at 2 3/4 and 5 1/2. We'll be folding it this way. I also have a layer of the Whisper White. This is 5 1/4 by 4. I have 2 more pieces of the thick Whisper White that's 2 1/4 by 4. A piece of the Country Lane Designer Series paper, 2 1/4 by 4. And a piece of Early Espresso that's 8 1/2 by 2 3/4. I scored the Early Espresso cardstock at 4 1/4. We're going to use this for the Joy Fold card. And you'll want a galvanized button. Unfortunately, I do not have any galvanized buttons today, so I'm going to substitute with a piece of galvanized metallic paper. And we're going to use a tiny bit of the embossing paste and about 8 inches of linen thread. My ink is Smoky Slate and Early Espresso, and I'll be using Stampin' Blends, the Calypso Coral, the Soft Suede, the Smoky Slate, and the Color Lifter. We're going to use the hexagon folder to make chicken wire. You're going to ink the side with the Sizzix and Stampin' Up! This is a little bit wider. And I'm using the Smoky Slate. You want to mostly use the side that's away from the finger holes and just ink it. And then for neatness sake, lay your cardstock on the other side and just close it. And you want to press firmly all over. You don't need to press really hard. We're not embossing, we're just stamping. And you get this chicken wire. And we can go ahead and adhere this to the inside of our card. You can ink the flap of your envelope if you'd like. You'll just want to put a scrap of paper so you don't ink the base of it. Lay it down. You want to make sure all the way on the inside of the, up next to the fold. Close it up and ink that like that. And you've got your chicken wire envelope to match. You can just put this under the sink, rinse it off, and you're good to go for embossing. And we can go ahead and put the Early Espresso on the inside of the card. We're going to have the fold of the Early Espresso on the end of the card away from the fold of the mint macaron. And we just kind of want to center this. We're going to stamp the larger greeting inside. It doesn't really matter which one. All of these would be perfect. For this card, I'm going to stamp Simply Thankful for All the Good Things in Early Espresso. And I'm going to stamp that right at the top of the card. And we can go ahead and put this on the inside of the card now. We're ready to stamp the flowers at the very top of the cardstock. And I stamped that in Early Espresso and stamped the milk jug in Smoky Slate. And I'm going to stamp the label. Oh, I got that a little too inky in the middle. That's also in Smoky Slate. Now we're going to color our milk jug. I'm pretty much coloring the whole thing in the light Smoky Slate. I should actually use the larger brush tip since I'm coloring a large area. We can do this pretty fast. And go ahead and color the label. We're going to call attention to the shape of it, so we're going to color a little line under here, at this thin part here, under this ridge, a little bit under the handles, along the sides to make sure it looks round. And a little bit on the bottom. Switch back to the light one, and we can color by kind of circling around to mix that color in and blend it. Don't press too hard, you want to save your tips. We're going to use the color Lifter. I like to call this the color Pusher to highlight the front of this. And you won't see a lot of color. We really want to color this whole label because we really kind of want a soft smoky slate color there. And now we can stamp Thanks in the middle, and we're stamping that in Early Espresso. And we're going to quickly color some of these flowers. This is actually, and I grabbed the dark one, so I'm going to switch to the light one after I do a little bit of the rounding. And I am using the soft suede for the leaves of the cotton. And I'm using the dark Calypso Coral for the berries. I'm going to use one of my palette knives. You could also use a toothpick. I like to keep mine, my embossing paste as sealed up as possible. So I've kept that little foil liner, and I also keep it in a plastic bag just so that we don't really want this to dry out. And I'm just adding a little bit of cotton to the cotton balls. I used toothpicks on my prototype, and I am finding this palette knife does pick this cotton, this embossing paste up better, especially if I use the back of the palette knife. And again, you want to close this up tight, and I'm going to wash this right away so it doesn't dry on here. Then we're just going to adhere this onto the front of the card. I almost always put adhesive on the smaller pieces, so that would have been this piece. but I didn't let the embossing paste dry, and so I'm trying to be very careful about that. Just want to add a little bit of an embellishment right here to hold this card closed. I said I wish I had those galvanized buttons. They are so beautiful. I do have one galvanized button that I've already used on a similar card. I just love those buttons. Wish I had a whole bunch, but I don't have any on hand. So I'm going to punch 2 holes for my button here close together. And I'm going to punch around those 2 holes, trying to get that as close to the center as possible. This was a 3/4 inch hole punch, and now I'm punching with a 1/2 inch hole punch. And getting this as even as possible. And I'm just going to put these 2 things together to make myself a button. Go very easy on the adhesive. It doesn't really soak in much to that foil, so it tends to smear. You can let that dry out a little bit too, but I like to live dangerously. If you have folds in your linen thread, you can just kind of run your thumbnail on it or a bone folder. We're going to go ahead and lace the button. Going to tie a bow, so first a knot and then a bow. And I always like to make my bows pretty small, especially on little embellishments. And we're going to put this on with those mini dimensionals. I'm stacking 2 dimensionals, one on top of each other. Make sure and take the backing off the first one. Moving and backing off the second one. And then we're going to just put our button right just barely overhanging the edge of both of those. And there it is. If you follow this link on the video or in the YouTube description below, I'll have free detailed directions for this project and product links. I sell the Stampin' Up! Products you've seen in this video. Just click the links for products you'd like to purchase and you'll be taken to my online store at Stampin' Up! Be sure to read about the frequent shopper points I offer my customers. I'd be honored to be your Stampin' Up! Demonstrator. If you're new to stamping or Stampin' Up!, you might want to check out the Basics tab on my website where I share about stamps, ink, and paper, cutting card bases and layers, and some of my favorite tools. I offer lots more resources at bevadams.com. Click on Scroll My Projects and you can go back year by year to 2011 and click to go to the original post with directions. Getting organized for lots of resources like a practically free stamp pad storage solution, a basic toolkit you can grab and go, labels and case inserts for just about every product, and more. Products from Bev for information about sharing my Evernote notebook of current Stampin' Up! Products, taggers to name all those layering framelits, a paper sampler for Stampin' Up! Cardstock, heavy-duty bags to store your 12x12 and 6x6 paper, and for the bow maker that my friend makes that I'm always using on my videos. Save money or make money. Techie tips. Deals from Stampin' Up! Come stamp with me if you're in Ventura County in California. Don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel and also to my website so you don't miss a thing. More organization means more time for crafting. Thank you so very much for watching. Bye.